Welcome back to class time. This is CSEC Electronic Document Preparation and Management, and I am your teacher, Antoinette Gray. Today's topic is electronic communication. Let's get started. Now, last week we started looking at electronic communication, and we said electronic communication is using electronic devices so that you are able to generate information from one stage to another stage or from one area to another area. Some of the electronic communication that we use in businesses now are teleconferencing, video conferencing, and we also still use a lot of telephone devices. We also use fax machine and electronic mail. Now we are going to be looking at social media as what we started with last week, and just to recap again, we are looking at social media from an extra point of using it in the business world. So we're saying that yes, we use social media to keep in touch with family and friends and to keep the link to ensure that we know what is happening with each other. But in businesses, we also use social media to attract new customers, and we also use it to advertise our products. So for today, we are going to be looking at features of electronic mail, types of electronic transmission media, use of the smartphone, advantages and disadvantages of a smartphone, and some of the internet terminologies. Now let us start. What is electronic mail? Students, you are already aware of what electronic mail is. You have been using email, especially since the pandemic, since COVID pandemic, you have been using your email. So email is short for electronic mail. It is one of the most widely used apps on the internet. We use email messages in businesses, and we also use it in our day-to-day private activities. So we send messages and we receive messages as well. And we also ensure that we use electronic mail because we want our message to get to the destination very, very fast. Email can be sent and received from a computer once you have electronic access and internet. But not only do we use computer to send email, we also use any of the devices that we have now, which is our smartphone, tablets, and we also use laptop computers. To send a message, the message will contain sometimes text, as well as video, as well as graphics. So your email message can take into account all of these things, or it may take into account only just a text message. To send and receive email, you must have an email address. Now, before where you working online, students, I know some of you had email addresses before, but they were not active because you normally spend your time communicating using the social media pages, especially Facebook. So now you must have an active email account if you want to be able to log into the Google Suite classroom that we're using as a part of our teaching and learning process. So you must have an active email account, and also the person who you're sending the email message to, they must have an email address as well. Your email address is very unique. Only one individual can have the email address. No two persons can have the same email address unless you're using different accounts, and they will have to have different accounts at the end. So different Gmail, different Yahoo, different Hotmail, right? So you have different email accounts that you open. So the email address also should consist of the @ symbol, which most of us are aware of by now, and your email consists of a string of continuous letters and numbers. Now your email address is made up of 3 parts. You have the account name, for example, like what we have on screen here, the account name, EDPM class 11, then the @ symbol is followed, and then we will have the email provider, which in this case is gmail.com. So if you look at the email address as example at the end of the screen, you will see EDPM grade 11 at gmail.com. So that is the entire email address that was made up as an example for you to understand and to see what an email address looks like, just in case you have not yet created one, or just in case you don't know how to create one. Now, once you're going to be creating an email address for business, your business email address must be very professional. So all the little nicknames that you would like to use, such as what we have on the screen here, we have Killer, Monster, Hottie Hottie. We're saying no to all of those names, among others, once you are creating business email. So most persons, when they are creating a business email, they use a part of their name or they use all of their name. Example of what we have on the board, johndoe@gmail.com or doejohn@maystars.com. Now, the Maystars is the name of the company where John works, and so he gets to use it as a part of the email address as the domain for creating his email address. So you know that the work email is different from your private email. Once you have created your email, or you're going to be creating your email, you should use a strong password. Now, I know some of you will say, why do we need a strong password if we are using it for work? But remember that some of the information that you will be using will be confidential information that you don't want everybody to know of. So you wouldn't want your computer to be accessed by everyone. So you must create a password so that you will be the only one able to access your system at any point in time. Now, when composing an email, students, we know that most of you already, as was said before, you know how to create an email address, and you also know how to compose an email so that you can send it to another person or your recipients. But you have to keep the sentences brief and clear. Explain in such a way that persons understand what you are saying, but it does not have to be very long, extended messages where persons lose what you are trying to say in the message. Use the correct grammar and the correct spelling. Please remember you are dealing with business communication, business email, and so when you abbreviate the things, some persons may not know what you are talking about. So use proper spelling and use proper communication when you are using your business email. Proofread your message before sending it to ensure it is free from errors. Remember, after you send the message to your recipients, you cannot take back the message unless the email address that you have inserted is incorrect. So you must ensure that the message that you are sending is something that you want to send, that you have checked it, and everything is okay. All right? Use the line labeled subject to take a brief, clear statement of what the content is about. So when you are going to be sending your email, please ensure that you insert a subject line once you're dealing with business communication so that all recipients will know what the email is about, and they will also know if it's something that they need to respond to promptly. Avoid using fancy fonts. Business emails again, business communication, the fancy thing does not really, please use the style that persons are able to read. Some of the styles may be good to you, you may be able to see them clearly, but some persons are not able to read those fancy fonts clearly. So if it's business, keep it in a business format. Now let us look at the email window. Each email window will have a little difference in the folders that are labels or the information that are given in the window, but most of it will always remain the same. So when you are looking at your email window, most of the information that we have here on screen, it will remain the same for most of the email providers that you are using. So when you look at from, it is telling you who the message is coming from, to the recipient that you are sending the information to, and CC for carbon copy for the persons who you would want to get the information, even if they are not the main person, and the BCC for blind carbon copy if you want other persons to get the information without the original receiver seeing the other persons who will be getting the information. Now, if you look on the left of your screen, you will see folders, and some of these folders, as was said before, you will see them in other email window once you open your email. So we have inbox, sent, draft, and spam. Those are some of the main ones that you will see in other email window. Now, the inbox contains all the emails that you will be getting from all individuals. Once they come to you, they will fall in your inbox. In the sent folder now, you will have items that you have sent to different recipients. So you will send your items and you will have a folder that gives you a clear indication of all the persons who you had sent information to previously. The draft folder is the folder that keeps the messages that you have started but you have not yet completed, so you have not sent them. So once you have started a message and you decide not to send it at the same time, it will be stored in your draft until you are ready to fix it and send it to a particular recipient. And for your spam is your junk mail. Junk mail that will come in bulk from time to time and fill up your inbox. So sometimes you will have a spam filter that filter out those messages into the spam. You can go and read them from time to time if you so desire, or you can just put them in the bin if you don't want to read them. So some of the spams are unsolicited mails that are coming from different organizations that are advertising business products. All right, so these are some of the features of the email window. So now we are going back to look at the to and the CC, which means carbon copy, and BCC, which some students are not really sure of. Yes, they are there, but you are not really sure of their use. So we are saying to. Beside the to, when you're sending an email, you're going to put the recipient's email address. So if you're sending the message to 5 persons, you can put all 5 names in that section if you so desire. Or you can put the message to the main person beside to, and then the other 4 recipients, you put their email address in the CC section, which means CC for carbon copy. Before, when we usually address letters for persons in businesses, we would send different copies to different individuals, all 5 individuals, and put CC and the names below for persons to realize that these persons will be getting a copy of the mail. Now in the email, it's basically the same thing. just use the CC and add the email addresses for the other persons who will be getting the mail. And afterwards now we have the BCC, and the BCC means blind carbon copy. So if you are sending information to persons, but you only want one or two individuals to get the information and not know who the others are who are receiving the information, you put the email address in the two that you want the primary individual to get, and then you put the other email addresses in the BCC so that the persons will not know who the other recipients are for the email information. All right? So I hope that you have been paying attention, because some persons still are not aware of what the BCC is or the CC. So please ensure that you look back at that when we are through. Now, for email messages, you can send attachments with your email message. An email attachment is a computer file sent along with an email message. So once you want to send an attachment with an email, all you have to do is look in your email window, and then you will see the icon which looks like a paperclip, and you will also see the word attach. You click on that icon, and it will ask you, it will take you to a browse section where you will browse for the file that you are looking to upload with your message. So your file may be on the desktop somewhere there on your computer, or it may be on another storage device that you will install on your system. So you should know where you are looking for the file that you want to upload. So that is how, and remember, you can attach more than one document to a particular message. So before we looked at advantages of electronic communication, and now we are looking at advantages and disadvantages of electronic mail. Now, once you look at what we have here, you will see that most of the advantages are similar for electronic communication, because we are actually using electronic mail as one of the medium for electronic communication. So an advantage, speed of delivery. The messages are sent quickly. It doesn't matter where in the world you are, electronic messages will go through very quickly once you have the internet connection and once you have the speed. To communicate using electronic mail, it is at a very low cost. It is not as costly as what you would pay if you are using our regular postal service. So the communication cost for electronic mail is very low. You can also send the message to multiple recipients at once. So like was discussed before, you can send to 5, 10, it depends on how many persons you want to send the information to at once, so you don't have to keep repeating the process. And you can also, the information is also portable. So because you can now walk with your laptop, your tablets, and your smartphones, then you are able to access your email from any place that you are once you have service or the internet connection, and you will be able to send and receive email while on the go as well. So some of the disadvantages are unsolicited mail virus. So remember, we talk about junk mail or spam mail. Some of them actually contains virus. So once you have an antivirus on your computer, before you open these messages, or when you get these messages, some of the time your antivirus will clean them up, or it will reject, your machine will reject the message in the first instance. Email is vulnerable to loss. meaning that sometimes your machine, you may have a machine and it crashes, you are not able to get back into the system, but because you do not remember your password to your email, because you always leave your email open, then you have a problem getting into your email if you don't know your password. So most persons or some business organizations, they will back up their communication and their data so that in the case of any such thing, they can always access the information from remote locations. And another disadvantage, the information is accessible to others. Please remember that not all information everyone should have access to. And so you must ensure that the password that you use to get on your system, that it is only accessible to you and by you, and you know how to get onto the system. All right? So now we are moving on to managing and organizing mail. Managing and organizing your email. After an email is read, you should perform one of the following action. So once you open your email, you will see sometimes lots of messages depending on where you work, what you do, and so on. You should either reply, delete, file, forward, or schedule. So in replying to the email, you will look at sometimes the message that is sent, or you look at the subject line, and you will identify if this message needs to be responded to immediately, or you need to just file these messages and get back to them at a later date. Now you can also delete messages, just like what we talk about some of the unsolicited mail. You can delete them if you think they are cluttering up your inbox, or if you know you're not going to get an opportunity to read them anytime soon. You can also forward the message. So it depends on your job that you're doing. You will also get message that must go to other persons within your organization. You will look at what the message is that you got, and you forward them accordingly to the appropriate individuals. So you have to ensure that you check your messages regularly. And schedule. Some emails that you get as well will mean that you have to schedule meetings or conferences and get back to the recipient. So you should always ensure that whatever needs to be scheduled, you read email and you do the scheduling as quickly as possible. Managing your inbox. Check emails regularly. Separate personal and work email. Create folders and use the telephone. Remember, we discussed about cluttering of your inbox. So once you know you are working in the environment where you have to check your email in order to get information out to customers or also information for management, you must check your inbox regularly. Separate personal and work email. Most individuals have two emails, one for work and one for personal use, because when you are at work, you should be working and not spending time checking personal emails. Furthermore, you don't want to respond to the incorrect email by sending a personal email to somebody from work. So you want to ensure that you are checking the right one and responding to the right one as well. You can create folders. So on your system, in your email folders, you can also create other folders so that you can sort quickly your email messages and you have them in order so that you are more organized and you know how and when to respond to your messages. Now, use the telephone means that not all of the email messages that you get, you should respond or you have to respond to using another email. What you can do to eliminate some of the conversations is to just pick up the phone, call the individual, sort out the matter as quickly as possible instead of sending 5, 6 emails. One telephone call could clear up the matter. So please remember that you still can use your telephone as well. Still continuing with managing emails and organizing emails. So now we are looking at creating folders, and we have what is called a 5-folder method. 5-folder method meaning inbox, today, this week, this month or quarter, and for your information. So if you have these 5 folders, you're going to organize your email messages into these 5 folders to ensure that you are working with the work that you should be using on a particular day and responding efficiently. So in your inbox, you're going to use your inbox just to hold the messages that comes into you, and then you're going to separate them. So in the today's folder, whatever messages that you need to respond to today, you're going to put them in the today's folder. And that is how you're going to consistently keep your inbox free and clean. For this week, all the messages that must be responded to this week, you put them in your this week folder, and as the week progresses, you respond to them accordingly. Same thing goes for this month or this quarter. Sometimes you get information very early, which you may not need to respond to exactly at the same time. So you have a little time to work with. You put them in your this month or your this quarter folder, but you must remember to check this folder as well. All right? And for your information, for future reference, if you get some information that, yes, you already used this information, you responded, but you might need this type of information again sometime throughout the year, next year, you will store this information in the for your information folder so that you know where to find it and you can look back whenever it makes sense to you. All right? So continuing, we are moving on to how do we place messages in a folder. And to place messages in the folder is fairly simple. You just click on the email message that you would want to place in the folder and drag it to the folder that you want. So you simply click on the message, drag it to the folder. Another way is if you want to move more than one message at a time, click on the message, hold down the shift, and then you click the other messages, and then you drag them to the folder. So you click on one first, hold down the shift, and then you click the others and drag them, dropping them in the folder that you would want them to be in. All right? So those are some of the features of the electronic mail. And we're still looking at features. So we are sorting our mail now. To sort your mail, remember that some persons will always look at their email more quickly than some. So to sort your mail urgently, some persons will use the date. So the most recent mail will be on top. Some persons will have the oldest mail being on top. Or some persons will sort based on username. Persons will sort based on the email name. So most business organization persons using email, they sort by the date order. So that would mean the most recent email that comes in, it is at the top. So you don't need to be looking through all the older emails to find the ones that came in today. All right? But you decide which one is best for you and help you to move through quickly. You will make that decision, and then accordingly, you will sort your mail in that order. All right. So that is managing email and organizing email in a nutshell. Do you have any questions, students? All right. Any questions? No questions? Remember now, when you're writing your email, please remember to keep it short, and also remember to use the correct grammar and also correct punctuation because you're dealing with business email. Also, remember that you are not supposed to be using all nicknames for your email addresses. It would be good if you can use your name to implement as part of the email name, so persons in the business organizations that you're dealing with will know who they are responding to and will want to do business with your organization. So remember that these are important rules that you need to follow once you're doing business emails. All right? Moving on now to transmission media. Now, the transmission media is what we use to ensure information travels from one point to another point. So in order to get our information across from point A to point B, we will be using the transmission media. Now, transmission media is divided into two. We have the wire and we have the wireless transmission media. Now, the wireless transmission media is what most persons are using today, which we use electromagnetic wave and electromagnetic link. And the wired media is what we normally use before, which has a shorter range than what we are using now. Now, the types of wired media that we'll be looking at are twisted pair, coaxial cable, and optical fiber cables. And the types of wireless media that we'll be looking at are radio waves, microwave, satellite communication. So the wired media are guided physically because we are using the wires to ensure that information gets from one point to another point. And the wireless media is unguided, where we use waves and links. Now let us look at twisted pair cables. Now, twisted pair cable is one of the wired media that was used regularly before we started moving on to the wireless. So twisted pair cable, two wires are twisted around each other. Now you may say, why did we twist the wire like that? It's to keep out the noise and to keep out unwanted sound and other interferences from the communication process. So the wires are twisted together. And then we have two types of twisted pair, as you can see on screen: unshielded twisted pair and shielded twisted pair cables. Now, the shielded twisted pair cable have more coating and covering than the unshielded twisted pair cable. So if you look on the screen and you look to the right on what we have, you will see the difference between the shield and the unshielded twisted pair. And we're saying that twisted pair, before we would normally use a twisted pair in the telephone lines. That is when you have landline telephones. These are the type of wires that we would normally use to get connection going. Or when you would have your local area network, these are what we would use to connect your cables to get the media. All right? Now we are looking at coaxial cable. Coaxial cable consists of two eccentric conductors with the external conductor in a metal jacket. So most of you know what a coaxial cable is already. You may not know that that was the original name, but you are aware because you have your cable boxes and most of you have your television set that you use the cables to connect, these cables to connect to your television set. So if you are at home using your cables, when you start watching your television, you will see that these instructions that we are giving, these cables that we are showing, these are some of what you have which connect your cable to your television, right? And we also use that type of cable for your LAN in connection as well. Moving on now to optical fiber cable. Optical fibers are used to guide light rays. Every fiber consists of a glass surrounded by a glass cladding. Again, we can also use the optical fiber cable to set up our cable box and to set up our television and our local area network. So if you look at what we have on screen, the core is a plastic fiber. That is what transmits the light. And we have what we call a cladding. And the cladding is the outer material that transmits the light back into the core. If there is any such problem of it getting out, the cladding will also ensure that the light stays within the core. And we have what we call a coating. Now the coating is the plastic buffer, and that buffer ensures that the light remains in the fiber. So those are the three wired media that we use, the three wired media that we use for communication. We talk about twisted pair cable, and we also talk about coaxial cable, and we talk about fiber optic cable. Those are what we will use as wired media, and you had examples there that you look at, and you can also do further readings as to what the twisted pair cable will do differently from the coaxial cable, differently from all the others that we'll be looking at. But before we wrap up, just to tell you that you should continue looking at the wireless media, because that is where we should be picking up from for the next lesson. All right? So that's it for today's lesson. If you have any questions, send them to Television Jamaica's Facebook page at Television Jamaica, or Instagram at television_Jamaica, or use the hashtag TVJClassTime. Up next, CSEC Chemistry. Stay tuned.
It's here. Interactive classes for all ages on the School Time channel on onespotmedia.com. With a combination of live Zoom classes and recorded class time, Schools Not Out lessons, and numerous educational content, we've created a comprehensive 24-hour channel dedicated exclusively to educating our nation's youth. Early childhood through to primary, secondary and tertiary, it's one stop on one spot for education 24 hours. Brought to you by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information in association with Television Jamaica Limited.